Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back to your Sunday night with Speed City. One of the things that happened at the F-175 event that we were talking about, the booze, well, the FIA came out and labeled this, the crowd's behavior as tribalist in a statement. And this is which I think is kind of ridiculous, but not kind of ridiculous, is ridiculous. But it's a nice segue for me to lead into the fact that Mohammed Ben Sulayem was talking about something. And most of the time, I find myself either cringing or not liking what he says. But this time, I actually did like what he said, because he said F1 should consider return to V10 engines on e-fuels. And when we were talking about the 2026 potential engines and rule changes a year or so ago, it's one of the things that I said. I was like, I'd love to see higher RPM multi-cylinder engines back running on e-fuels. Why not? Now, I know that this is not a huge story or anything, but the fact that I was agreeing with Mohammed Ben Sulayem was a first for me.
Well,
yeah, Bob.
I'll quibble a bit. I think what he said was F1 should consider such a thing, because he thought it was demonstrating leadership in the area of e-fuels and sustainable quality sights and sounds of racing and that sort of thing. But I would also say, and elsewhere in our show doc, I put the story of Mark Rushbrook, the performance boss at Ford Motor Company, talking about how Ford and Red Bull got together. Red Bull was not among their initial cut of potential operations, because Ford actually thought about buying a team, then decided against it. But one of the things that Rushbrook said was, we wanted to get involved in Formula One again, after saying for years that we wouldn't, because of the use of electric technology for propulsion. He said, hybrid engines, we're in. That's what we want. We want to demonstrate, capability in terms of electric propulsion. So, you want to go back to 10-cylinder screamers, that's just fine, but be careful what you wish for, because the Fords and GMs and other folks might pull out. Look at Honda. They wanted to get together with Nissan to discuss electronic propulsion or electric propulsion. And then, the deal fell apart. And Honda is back in Formula One because of that very reason. We want electric propulsion in cars. We want to advance the technology.
I think that's exactly what got us where we are, which personally, I wrote in my notes that the V6 hybrid engine is not special or exciting in any way, and they sound boring, which I know that's not news to anybody watching the show, listening to the show. But I think the electric car boom of 23, where every manufacturer was like, how many were saying they're not even going to build any cars that, they're going to stop development of any internal combustion. And then they realized, I think the bottom line is they realized that the infrastructure can't keep up with the pace that the manufacturers are changing. And then the demand dropped off. You can pick up electric cars now for, well below sticker price, where before they were well above. So, but I think that F1 may have got caught up in this a little bit in the world where we are now, is this tiny little 1.6 liter V6 hybrid engine. Because look, let's face it, there's plenty of big multi-cylinder aspirational hybrids is what I call them in my, I was just thinking through this. You've got, the Ferrari SF90, you got the Lamborghini Revelto, you've got the Ferrari 296, the McLaren Artura, and the Corvette E-Ray, all multi-cylinder, very exciting, all hybrid though, because
don't forget the Prius.
Yes, and the Prius is also hybrid. That's the only thing it has in common with all of this. Although the new Prius actually looks a little better than the old one. But my point in all of that is I think F1 got caught up in it, just like all the car manufacturers saying, hey, let's be as road relevant as possible. But all those cars that I just talked about are very road relevant. And you know what? I don't want my F1 car to be ultra road relevant. Like, I don't want it to be like a Camry hybrid V6. I want it to be like a Lamborghini, or McLaren, or a Corvette, or one of those hybrids. Car. Exactly. I don't want it to be that road relevant. I think and I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Right. Go ahead, Bob.
And Rushbrook actually said something about that in the story I read. He said, we want to, to get our technology into the race car. And if we get something back from the race car, that's great, but that's not the primary purpose. And I think that's an important note. They want to go racing with this cutting edge technology. Hey, you want the cars to be noisy? That's easy. Take the turbos off. Get your electrical energy somewhere else, like the old, the ERG systems, the energy recovery, ERS, I should say. Find another way to recharge the battery during the race and let those cylinders sing. I mean, that's not that big a technological jump.
Yeah, and here's a couple of stories for you.
That's what makes them quiet.
Yeah, exactly. A couple of stories that are worth looking up if you're interested on this subject. I've just come back from the Toyota series. We run what's called carbon neutral. And basically what it means is that the process that we use and the synthetic fuel that we use is actually taking... In other words, I think the carbon output was like 12% of what normal fuel would be. And so it's basically, we call it a non-carbon fuel.
Yeah.
And also, if you want another good story, WEC, if you remember this story, ran their fuel. I don't know if this is for the whole championship, but they get it from the wastage from wine in France.
I do remember that. That's right. And
and by the way, in our engines, in the Corolla engine,
perfect. I see Bob. Yeah.
It's fantastic. What a great story.
Yeah.
Go motor racing and use the wastage of Burgundy. Ron Burgundy.
Salute.
Ron Burgundy. But you know what? A lot of these fuels, they're saying they're pulling the carbon that's from the air, putting it in their fuels, and then it's putting it back in the air, as the term carbon neutral comes from, right?
Yep.
So but circling back to what MBS said about multi-cylinder engine. Yeah, why not? And Bob, what you said about turbos, spot on. As a complete, probably the most gearhead of us all, is that I know exactly what you're talking about. I have one turbo car, one not, and the one that's not sounds twice as good, even though it's nowhere near as fast. But that's a great idea.
Well,
and you don't have to have the MGUHs and all of that to charge the battery. You can charge the battery the old-fashioned way.
Right.
You can charge it with the engine. And it may not be as hyper efficient because, Formula One does love to brag about their engines are the most efficient in internal combustion ever to hit the planet. But, maybe, maybe do they have to lead the path that way, or they do it with e-fuels, right? And then it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I've always expressed my admiration for engineers. And if you, redefine Formula One as a sustainable, non-carbon fuel, but you want the things to be powerful and noisy, engineers will find a way to do it.
Yeah.
That's just what they do.
Absolutely. I always say that engineers can save the world.